First of all, you're gonna need some context. I'm a park ranger at a national park on a small island nation in the Caribbean. If you never heard of it, I don't blame you. We're a small island about 19 miles long off the coast of Venezuela. The park I work at has at least 8 kilometers of coastline, but you can't swim on most of it. Despite the signs and warnings, that usually doesn't stop people from entering the water. Some end up fine. Some end up injured, and some we just never find. And when we do find them, we just end up with more questions than answers. Unless you're living under a rock, you probably know of the economic crisis in Venezuela, with the crisis getting worse by the day and the tightening of immigration laws on the borders of Colombia, Brazil, and French Guiana. Many end up trying to cross to the neighboring and more prosperous island nations. As you can imagine, not all of them make it. And it's guys like me who ends up finding them. I remember one day in particular, it was my second month working at the park, and I was sent on patrol duty in order to monitor the coast. Now, during patrols, we park our vehicles and check the beaches on foot for plastic, sea turtle nets, and, well, anything out of the ordinary. I was on my way to the first cove, and as I got close to the beach, I see something. A small, yellow boat. I immediately stopped the car and pulled out my binoculars. I didn't know if whoever was using the boats was armed or not, so I observed from a distance. Once I deduced that the craft was abandoned, I made my way to the beach. I informed my superiors, and they later called the police and Coast Guard. Judging by the supplies in the boat, it looked like it was carrying 7 people, one of them possibly piloting the boat. Empty and full water bottles, life vests, soggy bread, things that we would normally find. The cause of this beaching was easy to see. The engine's propeller were completely destroyed, but it didn't look like it had hit a reef. Even if it were the case, there would have been something left to the propellers. But no, the bottom part of the engine had been completely ripped off. Another thing that stuck out to me was the complete lack of footprints. People don't just waltz on the beach and disappear into the night. They leave something behind. It didn't rain the night before and there wasn't any wind, so there should have been some prints left behind. By this time, the Coast Guard and police had arrived, and they were just as confused as I was. The engine had been destroyed, so this probably happened at sea, with no engine to propel them and no steering to guide them. They were dead in the water. So the currents probably brought the boat in. So what happened to the people? Also, on the bottom of the boat, we noticed there were scratch marks. We thought nothing of it, since we thought the boat probably hit a reef before it got on the beach. But some of them looked too deep and too straight, as if someone tried to carve it with a long, sharp knife. I was making a statement to one of the officers when I got called over by one of the Coast Guard guys. He sounded pretty upset.
Hey kid, you and that cop might want to take a look at this.
Me and the cop think nothing of it, so we walk on over to the boat where the Coast Guard guy was standing.
You guys see anything out of the ordinary?
We both scan the boat, and we don't see anything out of the ordinary. It looks like an empty boat, sir, I said, not really knowing what he was getting at.
Look closer,
he said. So we both lean in, and we see what he's talking about, and I don't believe it. There, running to the edge of the boat, were 4 scratch marks, and at the end of each one was a broken, bloody fingernail. I was bewildered. 4 bloody and broken fingernails. Somebody was dragged off the boat? I said.
Well, it looks like it,
said the Coast Guard guy. I looked straight at him. Why was he being so nonchalant about this? Wait, have you seen this before? He didn't even look at me.
We don't know what happened, but whatever happened is none of your concern. We're taking over.
I look around. My superiors give me this stare, as in to say, don't say anything. So I shut my mouth and head back to my car and went on with my day.
know not many people read them. I know not many people care. But it's still nice to find an outlet for what I saw. And I feel people have the right to know. They need to know. The arrogance of mankind is thinking that we know everything. We climb the tallest peaks, cure diseases, and even went as far as to put a man on the moon. If the first inhabitants of my island could see us now, they would surely see us as gods. Beings able to manipulate nature in ways to do our bidding in our search for knowledge. Many are bold enough to claim that there is nothing else to find here, and that our greatest discoveries lay beyond the stars of space. They forgot that there have been more men on the moon than in the Mariana. We know more about the moon than our own oceans. And I suggest they stop looking up and start looking at the sea. Fishing has been a staple for my people since the first inhabitants set foot here over 2,500 years ago. From the Kayquishio tribes to the Dutch settlers, the sea has provided food and resources, fish and salt, goods and commerce. The sea shaped us into who we are. Among the many fishermen on my island, nearly all live by the same code. The sea is as beautiful as she is mighty. To show respect is to come back from her embrace. To show dissidence is to be swallowed by the depths. I've heard stories of missing fishermen and the voices from the deep since I was no more than a little goat. As I grew, I merely chalked it up to just fishing stories and tragedies at sea. Now, I know there's something more to it. In the days following the incident of the migrant boat, we doubled our patrols, hoping to find any sign of the 7 people who were aboard before the craft mysteriously beached in a cove. Anything that we find was to be brought to the Coast Guard ASAP. We searched day and night, and the foot patrols on the beach turned up nothing. Aerial patrols saw nothing. Dives along the reefs turned up nothing but fish and the occasional plastic bottle. We searched every part of the coast, even went as far as hitting international waters, and still, no trace of the 7 people were ever found. The media labeled it as another tragedy of crisis happening to our neighbors to the south. People risking their lives in search for a better one. You want to know what pisses me off the most? The Venezuelan government labeled these people, these poor people, as traitors to the Republic. Any assistance from our neighbor was out of the question. After a month of searching and turning up nothing, the search was called off. The media eventually found some other tragedy to cover, and our tiny nation moved on like the currents. In the month during the search, I took my time to get up to speed of the going-ons along the coast of the park. Apparently, it's not the first time something like this has happened. Sure, we get the occasional refugee boats, but the circumstances surrounding this beaching, it has happened many, many times before. People disappear and die all the time. I mean, this is a big park and accidents happen. But these are different. They even have a name for it. Fish that drowned and are lost. Classy, guys. One story I remember was from Mr. S. Now, Mr. S is the personification of an ox. You know, the teacher's husband from Full Metal Alchemist? Well, he looks like that. He's been with the service for many since before I was even born. Needless to say, he's seen some weird shit. We were sheltering from a storm in base camp. The winds howled as the thunder rumbled angrily in the dark sky, and the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the distant sea. I was brewing the guys some coffee while we waited for the storm to pass. As I brought our mugs, he gestured for me to sit down. He told of a bold rescue of a capsizing boat about a kilometer offshore from the park. The seas were rough and unforgiving, and going by the boat would have been suicidal. "This weather reminds me of that day," he said somewhat jokingly. As part of the search and rescue division, he had a crew of 4 other men. They went out by helicopter. Upon arrival, they see only the keel of the craft with 5 people holding onto it for dear life. Mr. S readied himself as he lowered the rope to bring these people in one by one. As time passed, the further the boat sunk beneath the depths. The wind and rain made it difficult, but after what seemed like an eternity, they had 4 people aboard the helicopter. By the time the last person's turn had arrived, the boat was gone, and he was all alone in the water. Guy had his life vest on, so not only did he stay afloat, he was also still easy for me and the pilot to see. I get down to him, and the guy is beside himself, screaming and flailing like a madman. He said that there was something tugging on his shoes, he said laughingly while mimicking the man's screams. The rest of my colleagues laughed with him as I remained silent. "I've heard about this," I interrupted. Yeah, I was 13. You were the guy on the rope." He raised his hands up. "In the flesh. Now, where was I? Ah, right. So, the guy's freaking out about something touching his leg. At first, I thought it might have been debris from the boat that he was kicking into. Until I felt it too. I'ma tell you now, kid. I've done a lot of boat rescues in my day. Felt plenty of shit that said boats left behind. But whatever that was," he pointed to the ocean, obscured by the rain and darkness, "weren't no floaty. It felt like something was picking at my fins, as if testing the material or something. I told the guy to calm down while trying to also calm my own damn nerves. He held still long enough for me to get a harness on him. I gave the signal, and we started going up. When I was about 3 meters above the water, I looked down at the guy's face. Looked full of hope. His voice began to grow solemn. He started rising out of the water. His face went from hopeful to horrified. He was pulled under, and the rope got so tight that I thought whatever it was gonna pull the hellion with me. It took a few seconds, but the rope slacked, and the empty harness was pulled out of the water. Searched for weeks, never found a trace of him. I remember, I said, trying to sound reassuring. Don't worry, nearly messed up a $10,000 harness though. The crew started laughing at this remark. They caught my silence. Don't worry, kid. You kind of get desensitized after a while. But I remember that day, I spouted. The news said a shark had gotten to him just before you pulled him in. Other than extreme bad luck, there's nothing weird about it. Mr. S began to laugh at my remark. A shark? Is that what they told them? His face grew serious. Look, kid, I know for a fact that ain't no shark that pulled that man under. What pulled him had gray, human arms.